Many of us have genius within us. We have ideas. We use it for the company. We put in long hours, 60, 70 hours a week. We'll break our backs for the company. But when it comes to us, when it comes to using our genius in our own behalf, taking a chance with our own creativeness, acting on our own dreams and ideas, somewhere along the line, we get paralyzed. We find some reason not to do it. Oh, I did that. I'm not as good as they are. I don't have their education. I felt inferior because I'd never had a college education. So I felt inferior. I thought people with college education were the most intelligent people in the world. And I felt inferior and intimidated by them. So I wouldn't want to speak before people that had more education than I did. What? Come on, Les, you can do that. Oh, no, I can't. Les, you're a good speaker, man. You can just communicate with people, period. There's just some things I just don't know. And can I pass? Get somebody else. I got a friend, man. This guy has a master's degree. He's real good. Get him. But I'm not the one to come speak to that group. See, I didn't know what I had in my hands. And fortunately, I had somebody around me who saw what I had and was willing to work with me until I could see it too. See, that's what many times we have to have. Somebody could look beyond our faults and see our needs and hold that vision until we are able to capture that vision ourselves. How do we handle some fears? I was talking with my friend, Pat Johnson. Here's one thing she said. If you got a real major fear, she said, take a deep breath and see yourself strong enough and more than able to handle that fear, whatever it is. Everybody take a deep breath. Whatever that feels, just feel that you have the strength and the power and the capacity to handle it. Another friend of mine named Ron Weiner, he says, when I'm confronted with a fear, I just practice the art of looking beyond the fear. I go behind it and see it already completed, see it already resolved. And then I carry myself accordingly as if it already is taken care of. That dispels the fear for me. Another friend of mine by the name of Jack Wilson said, when I experience fear, I think about when I was in Vietnam and what I handled back then. And I look at what I'm dealing with right now. And the fact that I survived that, the fact that I had other kinds of situations that were close calls or that I was overwhelmed with fear and I came through it, then I look at this and says, this is nothing here. And we've all had that experience, what Jack had. How many of you had some situations that you were in that you were overwhelmed with fear? You didn't know how you're going to come out, how you're going to survive. And you did. You survived and you didn't die. So what you got to do, whatever that was, whatever that state of consciousness, whatever that self-confidence that you had, however you stood up within yourself. Here's what we know. You survived. Here's what we know. You're still here. You didn't die. Hello. You did not die. You didn't die. You hear that? You didn't die. You're here right now. You got it and you handled that fear. You kicked it out of there. Remember that play Color Purple? I remember when Albert told the girl she couldn't go with Shug. She was afraid. She felt incompetent. And he said, where you going? You can't talk. Shug can talk. You ugly. You dumb. Shug got class. You ain't got nothing. Where you going? You ain't going to make it. You're going to fail. She said, look here, I might be ugly. I might be dumb. I might can't talk. She said, but I'm still here. And so as you begin to look at the fears in back of you, you came through those fears and you're still here. See, that's a testament about how powerful you are. And so whatever the volcano is, you have the capacity to take that volcano on, the capacity to jump in it and find your true identity. Here's another thing that keeps a lot of people from taking on the volcanoes and jumping into the challenges that they're confronted with. The fear of making mistakes or not feeling good enough. Guess what? You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. Guy said this, and it's true. He said, the person who has never made a mistake hasn't done anything. If you're going to make some mistakes, if you want to do something out here, you're going to fall flat on your face. You're going to be criticized when you come out into the arena called life. You're going to feel awkward and stupid and dumb sometimes. It goes with the territory, but it's okay. What's important is that you bring your stuff out here. Are you good enough? Prepare yourself. See, there's no substitute for competency. A positive attitude won't get it. Being enthusiastic won't get it. So you got to prepare yourself. You've got to develop yourself. You've got to practice. You've got to work. You've got to do your homework. You got to do your research. See, a lot of people have a yes, I can attitude, but a no, I can't aptitude. And competency builds confidence. And confidence feeds into competency. See, the better you become, the more confident you feel. And the more confident you feel, the better you want to become. You realize that you have no ceiling, that you can better whatever you've done so far. You can beyond that. You don't become cocky and arrogant, feeling that you've already arrived, as most people have. And that's why they've settled for less than what they rightly deserve in life, because they feel they have arrived and they say, well, I can rest now. I can rest on my laurels now. I've made it. No. Long as you're breathing, you got some more work to do. There's something else for you to achieve. The publisher of USA Today said that unless you've made some major mistakes in life, you haven't started living yet. So a lot of people, if you've never made any major blunders, made some major mistakes, lost some serious money, taken some serious risks, you haven't started living yet. You don't call that living, not rocking the boat, going through life quietly, tiptoeing safely to an early grave. No. You got to take some chances. You want to bring some adventure to your life. See, a lot of people, because they don't want to make any mistakes, it takes us to the next level. A lot of people don't want to fail. Fear of failure, fear of success, and guess what else? Fear of the unknown. I saw a guy last week, came up to visit me, haven't seen him for years. Bob Boyd from Columbus, Ohio. Bob Boyd introduced me to motivational tapes, introduced me to a lot of motivational speakers and positive thinking. Bob Boyd, that I know has been involved, personally I know, and I've been involved in business deals with him. Bob has had at least 30 failures that I know, 30 business failures since I've known him since 1972. Incredible. So I wanted to hear this deal that Bob was bringing me. Les, I've got to talk to you. So he came in the traditional Bob Boyd fashion. Hello, Les. How you doing? Bob said, Les Brown, I've got a deal. You know, you get exposure to a lot of people. Man, I've got a deal. I'm thinking, does he want me to join Amway? What is this? Man, I've got something going. Man, this thing, man, Les, it's a money machine. Tell me about it, Bob. But here's what was going on in my mind. Bob didn't mention anything about all the losses, deals we'd lost some money on. It never came up in conversation. It was like, this is the first deal he ever brought me. I said, what courage? You know what Winston Churchill said about courage? He said, courage is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So you want to courageously hold on to your dream and not lose enthusiasm. See, Bob has not internalized failure. Things just didn't work out the way he wanted them to work out. He's still looking for his pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Les, let me tell you something, man. You've got to see this deal. With the things you're doing, you're now on PBS. Les, you'll make a fortune. Man, I just can't wait to tell you about it. I said, tell me, Bob, tell me. He said, now explain to me what I just told you. I said, I don't know what it is, but I want to do it. I didn't even know. So I like the fact that Bob has not lost his fire. Bob is still hungry. Bob still sees his dream. Bob is still searching for a way to make it happen. He doesn't care about people talking about it. Man, he's never kept a job. Guys had 15 or 20 different jobs, all these business deals. Bob has turned a deaf ear to that. A guy in Los Angeles, all over the front page of the newspaper. He just passed the bar after taking it 48 times. He had more than enough reason and excuses not to take it. His son has a law firm. He could have been a legal assistant, a clerk. And people all of a sudden used to laugh at this guy. He was a laughing stock. Are you taking the bar lately? People will do that too. You know, people talk about John Kennedy Jr. failing the bar. Did you read in the newspaper that he passed? I didn't see that, but did they make a bigger deal about him passing as they did when he failed? No, you know why? People like to see you fail. They like to see that. People are like that. I don't know why it's set up like that. I was on the expressway. Traffic was jammed up. You know what was happening? It was an accident. But people pull over to the side to get out of their car to go look, to see somebody else's suffering. That's why talk shows are so popular. So people like to hear other people's misery, get it caught up in that. Then they go magnify it in their own lives because that's all they focus on. Bob Boyd went to conquer his volcano like that gentleman who decided it doesn't matter how many times I fail. I'm going to courageously pursue it. I don't care what people say. I don't care what they think. This is something that I want that gives my life meaning and value. You got a volcano like that in you somewhere.
When I think about the three pillars of something that would be your anchor, a foundation to drive you into the future, to live a big dream, to live a big life, what you think about, you bring about. You know, as a man thinketh, so is he. Dr. Carter G. Woodson said that if you can determine what a man shall think, you never have to concern yourself with what he will do. He said, if you can make a man feel inferior, you never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you can make a man feel justly an outcast, you never have to order him to go to the back door. He'll go without being told. If there's no door, his very nature will demand one. And I think that in many cases, governments and religious institutions have really unwittingly crushed the dreams and aspirations and the visions that people had of themselves. Not all, but a lot of them. And I think it's incumbent upon the individual to take responsibility, to develop yourself, to expand your mind, your vision, to seek out experiences. You know, Helen Keller said life should be a daring adventure. It's boring. and start to dream. What do you want? What do you really want for your life? I remember going to Auschwitz and walking down the halls in the Nazi German concentration camps and seeing the pictures of men and women who had dreams. And these people were exterminated. And one of the things that I heard in my mind when I reflected on a book written by Viktor Frankl, who was there, he said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost any how. And he talked about the people who were able to survive the inexpressible cruelties of Nazism, those who either believe in God or had someone that they loved that they were determined to see for some cause bigger than themselves. And in my case, my goal was to buy my mother a home. That was my big dream. And that caused me to read things and to listen to things to fuel my imagination, and then to develop my skills to becoming a voice of influence. And the other thing that's important is creating a community of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. And it started with a man, Mr. Washington, who said, a high school teacher, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. It could start with one person, and then it goes from there. Associating with people who share your values, associating with people, like-minded people who have dreams, who have goals that they're working on, and being in that community. Studies indicate that one goose can fly 40% further in formation with other geese than can ever fly by itself. In fact, I'm thinking about a scientific study where they exposed some rats to electronic shock, and after they increased it, it killed them instantly. But then they put these rats in groupings with other rats. And then what happened was that they continued to increase the shocks of these rats, and they increased it over 10 times more. It took far more to kill them than what it took with just one. And so there's something about being in a community of people who share your dream, who hold you accountable, who challenge you, who call you out, who can see what you can't see that you have within you. Inspire you to step up. Ebony Magazine, the late John H. Johnson, who started that with a $500 loan from his mother, he said something in his book called Making It Against All Odds. There's no defense against an excellence that meets a pressing public need. And I suggest to you, one, work on yourself. To me, I think there are three pillars of what's required in order to carve out your place in this global economy. There are many steps, but there are three that I think that's indispensable. One is working on your mind. Be ye not conformed to this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The second is of having a mindset and willing to discipline yourself to make the sacrifice to engage in ongoing self-study for self-growth and development, developing your communication skills. I can hear Mr. Washington now say, Mr. Brown, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. Nelson Mandela said, if you speak from your mind, you speak in a language that a man can understand. But when you speak from your heart, you speak in his language. And so my goal in teaching people how to create mass appeal, how to change lives, that you have to change yourself. It starts with you. And then you begin to see from your experience how you can begin to impact and influence others and be a voice of change. And that ability really will allow you to carve out a place for yourself in the marketplace. And the methods and the techniques, the simplicity of how you language what you say. Einstein said that genius is the capacity to take the complicated and make it simple. When you are creating change and mass appeal, keeping it simple, but being the message that you bring and loving it and standing in your power, and realize that you're here for a reason. I believe to make a difference. I believe to do great work. I believe to live a life, as Jim Rohn said, when you live your life, he said, your life can be either an example or it's a warning of what not to do, or an example of what to do and what's possible. 85% of them reach their goals because of their attitude, 15% because of their aptitude. Now, to me, that was big, because I was in special education. I was labeled educable, mentally retarded. So I said, whoa, that means I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. That if I have a winner's attitude, that I've got a shot, that I could make it, that I don't have to live a life of being average. I wanted to live a life of meaning, of purpose. Being adopted, I wanted to do something for my mother. And so by listening to motivational messages and reading on a regular basis, it really taught me the value of using your time to work on yourself, to develop yourself, to really restructure your belief system for what was possible for you. It really expanded my vision of myself. And so to me, that's what it means about mass appeal, because I was working on myself. Then I started sharing it with others, and I noticed a difference in them. And I shared with them the things that I was doing because they saw the difference in me. And it's been said that a career is something you love so much you do it for nothing. So as I talked with and shared with my friends what I was doing and what was possible for them, I eventually evolved into this life of where I am. And as a result, I carved out a market for myself. And because this is my passion, this is what I've spent the majority of my life doing, I've developed a level of expertise, a level of strength and power and reputation in this area that created a demand for myself. To me, one of the most important things and the first step in changing lives is to have a program for yourself. When I started on this path, that was what my goal was to change me, given my circumstances. I think that, psychologists say that we create a mental blueprint between the ages of 1 and 5, that between that time, we determine what's available for us and what's not available for us. And so given my circumstances, being born in an abandoned building on a floor in a poor section of Miami, Florida, I became interested in a path of developing myself. I remember shining the shoes of Mr. Swiderski, this man that my mother worked for, very wealthy on Miami Beach. She cleaned his home and she cooked for the family and kept the children. And he listened to motivational messages unbeknownst to me. That was programming my mind, and it created a thirst within me to get on this path. I remember listening to Earl Nightingale, who said, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. And so to me, reading became an out. It became a tool that I used to develop myself, and not just reading for enjoyment, but reading for personal growth, reading to look at those things that I read and to apply them in my lives. And I would read sometimes at night from 60, 100 pages a night, sometimes a whole book. And then I would underline the book and I would think about them. I would memorize them, and then I would apply them. I would try them out.
All of us have seen our destiny at some point in time, and we decided not to listen. We decided to ignore it and say, no, that's not for me. And that's what causes many of us to give up on our volcano. The experiences and the challenges, the defeats, the disappointments, and the failures of life. Then we decide to sell out on our true potential, sell out on living our dreams, feeling that we're not good enough, not wanting to make any mistakes, particularly if you're raised with a great deal of criticism. So you've got to be willing to prepare yourself and do the best you can. Take your best shot and let the chips fall where they may. And believe that everything is going to be all right. Take that leap of faith. Trust yourself and know within yourself that everything's going to be all right. But aren't there some guarantees you can give us, Les? Yes. What is that? You're going to die. Excuse me? You're going to die. In case you didn't understand that, you can't get out of life alive. So I'm saying to you, you got 6 months to live. Live your life now. Live your dreams now. Live your life now. Live your dreams now. Start acting like this is your last day on the planet. This is the only life that I have. And that is my volcano. And I'm going to take the leap of faith. I'm going to jump in it and I'm going to handle it because I know the universe will never give me anything I don't have the capacity to handle. See, I say to you that you've got the power within you to handle any kind of volcano in your life, regardless of how it shows up, regardless of any kind of challenge that you might have in your life. I say to you, you got that in you right now. Where will it come from? Don't worry. If you trust yourself, it will come to you at the right time in which you need it.
For 15 years, before I made the decision that I was going to stand up and be a professional speaker, for 15 years, I allowed fear to keep me silent. One, I thought that I would not be good enough. I have no college training. I never worked for any major corporation. I mean, there's some things I feel strongly about, but why would anybody would gather in an auditorium to listen to me? I mean, I'm nobody. And that kind of thinking fed the fear of failure, fed the fear of disappointment, fed the fear that I wasn't good enough, fed that fear of they're not going to like me. I won't be accepted. I'm not qualified. All of those things paralyzed me and kept my lips sealed. There are times that the audience will not like you. You're not going to get every audience. I've experienced that. How'd you feel afterwards, Les? I felt badly. And I looked at myself. I listened to the tape. I went back to the drawing board and say, what did I do wrong? What is it that I can do to improve myself? And I worked on it. I've been intimidated by other speakers. I've been on programs where the speaker before me was so good and got such an incredible response from an audience, a standing ovation. I said, oh my God, I really don't want to come up behind that speaker. I had a program I'll never forget. A young man had to speak before me, and he was so powerful. And I was the guest speaker, but he was a young kid that had been invited to speak there at this special program honoring Dr. Martin Luther King. And he did the I Have a Dream speech. And I've heard a lot of people try to do it, but on that day, he did that speech with the power, with the magic, and mesmerized the audience to such an extent. When the pandemonium died down, everybody was walking out and they said, Les Brown is supposed to speak. And I pretended to have an attitude. I said, don't worry about it, and walked out. I was relieved. I said, oh God, thank you. I couldn't wait to get into my car. I mean, that's going to happen. They're going to be speakers better than you. Learn from them. He and I became friends, and I brought him on other programs, and I learned from him, a young man much younger than I am. There are times when you're not going to be able to connect with the audience, that you're going to be off. Your memory will fail you. You're going to do some things that will embarrass you. I spoke at the National Speakers Association and stepped forward and called Cavett Roberts Dick Cavett. And I didn't even realize it at the time until the second time that I did it to make a point, incorporating a name in my presentation. And I had to keep going. I could not back up. And later people talked about me and made jokes about it. And I was embarrassed. I was hurt. And I came back. That's going to happen to you. You're going to make some mistakes. But you know, my good friend Ed Foreman has something that he anchors his life on. I think all of us can learn from. He said, anything that's worth doing is worth doing badly. And I've used it so much, I've just taken it for myself. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing right if you know how to do it right. But even if you don't know how to do it right, it's worth doing badly again and again and again, until you get it right. So this fear of making a mistake, you're going to make some mistakes. You're not going to be perfect. This fear of they're not going to like me. That's right. There's some people that aren't going to like you. There are people that are going to talk about you, that are going to criticize you. There's some speeches that you are going to give. And as you listen to that later, say, oh my goodness, I should have said this and I should have said that. Or why did I say that? Or why did I not include this story or that statistic? Or why did I get the names confused? All of those things are going to happen. Why? Because we're human. We're human. Every time I speak, I experience that fear. I get it off in a variety of ways. Part of it is I listen to tapes before I go in to speak. Part of it is I prepare myself to know that subject like the back of my hand. Part of it is I go out and I talk to the audience and I shake people's hands and I engage in small conversation to relax myself. Part of it is I visualize and I see myself successfully giving the speech and receiving a standing ovation and people loving me and accepting me and embracing me, and see myself confidently doing what it is that I want to do with that audience. The more you do it, the stronger you will become, and that fear will drive you as it drives me. I'm nervous all the time. I can't sit down and relax. I sometimes go to a banquet table and can't eat because I'm so nervous. I'm so excited. I never, ever get so relaxed that I don't experience the nervousness. So I'm saying to you, don't worry about the fear. You can handle it.
You're God's miracle child. I talked to a man who's going through our training. When he was a baby, he fell. He got through the rails where they were living in the apartment from the third floor. And doctors said he was going to die. He didn't have long to be here. And his mother, rather than just let him be on life support, gathered him up and said, I want to take my baby home. And he's still here, motivating people. He couldn't hear because of the injuries. Blind, couldn't talk, fell 3 stories. And now He said, I want people to know they're a miracle because I'm a miracle. He went through some stuff. Boy, when he told that story last night, you could hear a pin drop as I was working with him on his story. He said, I've been searching for you, Mr. Brown, for a long time, for 10 years. I've been searching for you to have this moment that we're having right now, to be able to talk to you through my computer. It finally happened. I've been looking forward to this moment, sir. I said, sir, I feel honored to be in your presence. You are God's miracle child. You filled 3 stories as a baby with the power of prayer and a mother's love. Give me my child. You determine the diagnosis, but God determines the prognosis. Give me my child. Gathered him up, disconnected those tubes, and carried a miracle out into the parking lot to get in the car to take home. Look at God. You've had some experiences. You've had some experiences that God has done for you, through you, as you, and you knew it was not you. I give him the praise. I give him the credit. Some of you, this is a breakthrough moment as you're listening to me right now. It's a breakthrough moment. You can hear me in your heart. It's stirring something up now. Now you know this is not it for you. You know when you look at me, when you look at my eyes, you know that you got to be hungry. That hunger brings out a fierceness in you that refuses to be denied, that it's possible, that it's necessary, that it's you, that you take personal responsibility for where you are. And it's hard. And you can do hard. You can do hard.
I want you to think about the goals that you want to achieve, and I really want to challenge you to make up your mind that you're going to make that happen for yourself. And I hope that it's some goal that really resonates with who you are. When I was a little boy, my goal was to just buy groceries for our family. My mother worked on Miami Beach. She was a domestic worker. And my goal was to really be able to go to the grocery store and purchase groceries ourselves. The families knew that my mother had adopted 7 children. And so they said, Mamie, whatever food is left over after we eat, you can take that home to the children. They were very kind, very, very considerate people. My mother, who, when she worked on Miami Beach, the people were very kind. I was appreciative of their generosity. But as a little boy, I said, Mama, one day when I become a big boy, I'm going to be able to buy groceries for us. My goal as a little boy was to buy clothes for my brothers and sisters. We wore the hand-me-down clothes of the children that Mama babysat for when she went over in Miami Beach. And if the clothes were too small, she would let them out. And if they were too large, Mama could sew and take them up. And I'll never forget David. His father was very wealthy. Mama worked for him, but David was my buddy. His father gave him 2 gifts for his birthday. Gave him a brand new boat, but he also gave him some motivational tapes. Earl Nightingale, I'll never forget. So he said, David, man, let me tell you something. When I die, you're going to get everything. I want you to listen to these tapes. And when his father left the room, David threw those tapes in the wastebasket. I said, David, could I have those tapes? He said, yes. I said, man, your father said, if you listen to these, you can get more and do more than what he's done. He said, hey, look, I'm going to get everything anyhow. Go ahead, take them. I told my children, I'm not leaving them anything. If I had a quarter and thought I was going to die, I'll swallow it. It's not what you leave for your children, it's what you leave in them. I look at you, I say, you have greatness within you. You have the ability to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. No one could have convinced me that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. You know, the easiest thing I do every year is go into a sales organization and dramatically increase their sales, or go into a prison and enable prisoners to see themselves differently and teach them the methods and techniques of how to plug into the system, or motivate young people to begin to see how they can have a vision of themselves in the future and fit. That's the easiest thing I do, or train a speaker to help them to leverage their experience as a speaker and say, look, speaking is a projection of who you are, not who you think you ought to be, and come with power from a platform. That's the easiest thing I've ever done. Let me share with you the most difficult thing I've ever done. The most difficult thing I've ever done was to believe that I can do what I'm now doing. No one could have convinced me, just given my circumstances. I earn millions of dollars every year. No one could have convinced me. If both my parents came up here right now, I would not know either one. No one could have convinced me, being labeled educable, mentally retarded, born in an abandoned building on floor in Liberty City, poor section of Miami, Florida, failing twice in school, no college training, never worked for a major corporation. I did not know I can do what I'm doing right now. Never forget Mike Williams, my mentor. I think a lot of people fail in life because of the fact that they need some mentoring. They need some coaching. See, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And here's something I realized. Sometimes you have to believe in somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. I kept holding on to my mother saying, "You're special, Leslie," when they said you're educable, mentally retarded. Mama didn't know what that meant. She only had a third grade education. So she said, "He'll be all right. He'll be fine." But she said, "You're special, baby. You are special." And they kept saying that over and over again. Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. As you think about your goals and your dream, it's possible together. See, most people never achieve their goals because most people suffer from possibility blindness. They look around trying to think about the things that they don't have. Robert Roots, young man who wrote a book about success principles of the Three Little Pigs, he said, "It's not what you don't have, is what you think you need that keeps you from being successful or happy in life." It's not what you don't have. See, I was focused on what I didn't have. I don't have a college degree, don't have any credentials, never worked for a major corporation. I was focused on the negative things. It said, negative things are the things that you see when you're not focused on your goal. What do you come with? What is it that you have within you that you showed up to bring? "Hey, Les, you don't know, but my dream is a long shot. A friend of mine, Dexter Yeager, said, when the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter." I'm reminded of a great man when I was reading Time magazine talking about some of the great minds of the last century. They didn't mention his name, Dr. Howard Thurman, one of the mentors of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and also an advisor to Mahatma Gandhi and Albert Schweitzer. And he said, the ideal situation for a man or woman to die is to have family members standing around their bed praying with them as they cross over. But imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed and standing around your bed, the dreams given to you by life, the ideas that you never acted on, the talents, the gifts, the abilities that you never used. And there they are, standing around your bed, looking at you with large, angry eyes, saying, "We came to you, and only you could have given us life. And now we must die with you forever." And the question is, if you died this very moment, what will die with you? What dreams? What ideas? What talents? What leadership potential? What greatness that you showed up to bring, that you allowed fear or procrastination to hold you back? Perhaps that's why Henry David Thoreau wrote the words, "Oh God, to reach the point of death, only to realize that you've never lived, only to realize that you've never scraped the surface of your potential. You survived 1 out of 40 million sperms. You will never have those odds again. You beat those odds, you can win anything." Failure. I will fail my way to success. See, 8 out of 10 millionaires have been financially bankrupt. 85% of people allow their fear of failure to outweigh their desire to succeed. And I believe that the reason that most people go so far in life and stop, Maya Angelou said it best. She wrote a poem. She said that most people go so far in life and then they park. They pull off the highway of life, especially when they get some hits, especially when they've been rejected, especially if they have an illness, especially if they lose something. They park. And I take it further. They don't even turn on their emergency lights. It's not because that they are broken down. They don't want anybody to stop and say, "Hey, look here. I've got some jumping cables in my trunk. You need a jump? Hey, look here. There's a service station ahead about 3 or 4 miles. I have a can. I can take you up there and get some gasoline." "Oh, no, I'm just fine." I had a talk show once, and highest rated, fastest canceled talk show in the history of television. And I was excited. You know, when time I came into television years ago, television was based upon conflict and controversy. So I said, I want a solution-oriented talk show. First concept of that kind. High ratings. And the syndicators say, "You just got lucky. Come on, let's do these other type of shows. You can be Jerry Springer." "Oh, no, that's not why I came here. No, I believe that we live in the greatest country. I'm not going to come here and sell out on who I am. I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to lower my standards for you. No, that's not why I showed up." And so they fired me. Security walked him out. I said, "I can walk by myself." But let me tell you what happened. I took a hit. and I parked. It wasn't that I didn't have the ability to do more. My concept was good. But what happened when I took the hit, when they canceled the show, I canceled myself. When they said the show is going to be taken off television, it won't work, I told myself, Les, you can't succeed in television. And I parked. You know what I did? I went back to my comfort zone. As a motivational speaker, I'm doing better than most people. That's nothing to compare yourself and then make yourself feel better. No, I parked. I didn't have my emergency lights on. I didn't want to show up on the radar. I parked. You know how long I parked? I parked for 10 years. Do you hear me? Now, unlike Regis Philbin, when his shows were canceled, he kept going. He kept going. He kept going. And he got other shows. I bet you somebody gave him a push. Somebody said, hey, you need a lift. I didn't even make that an option for me. I got off the highway. I went back to my comfort zone and I parked. The show failed and I identified myself as a failure. One day, just flipping the channels, looking at PBS and saw Wayne Dyer, my friend Wayne Dyer. We're both in our 60s. Wayne is still doing it. I said, hey, I've got some more stuff in me. I've got another PBS special in me. I've got some other ideas. You know, Oprah and Phil, they're doing my stuff. Maybe I need to come back out here. And I went back and started calling PBS and different people. They said, Les, what happened to you? I said, I didn't know whether or not anybody would be interested in me because the show was canceled. No, you had some good ideas. And when they said, yeah, we would love to do a show with you, I went into the studio and people that worked with 10 years ago, they were still there. And I said, you guys, you know, do you guys still have it? I said, we have it. Do you have it? I said, I think so. And I did the show and I wasn't as good as I was 10 years ago. It's taken me some time to get my strength back, to find my power, to get my confidence back. But at least I'm back out there in the game, determined to dry empty. So I say to you, see, I only attract millionaires or millionaires in training. You have something special. You have greatness within you. And the only reason you're here, you are my assignment. You can feel me. Some of you feel me right here in your heart of hearts. And my goal is to get past your mind and into your heart. So it's necessary that you have the mindset that I can do this. You've got to begin to believe and to fortify that belief and feed that belief by listening to tapes, going to seminars and workshops, by challenging yourself, by stretching yourself. It was Osborne who said, unless you attempt to do something beyond that which you've already mastered, you will never grow. And as you begin to challenge yourself, you'll discover some things about yourself that you don't know right now. The other thing is you begin to look at yourself, look at your dreams, and begin to experiment and stepping into your greatness. One of the things that's very important, whatever goals and dreams that you have, make your move before you're ready. Make your move before you're ready. We're instructed in life to walk by faith and not by sight. See, you want to really begin to stretch yourself. You want to become a risk taker. You want to raise the bar on yourself. Most people won't do that. See, most people engage in low life living, low risk living. If you're not willing to risk, you cannot grow. And if you cannot grow, you cannot become your best. And if you cannot become your best, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? I like what Helen Keller said. Life is short and unpredictable. Eat the dessert first. And so you want to begin to take some chances. You want to begin to challenge yourself and make it okay to fail and learn from your failures. Don't allow fear of failure and the allure, the attractiveness of playing it safe in life to draw you in. You can't get out of life alive. You got to die to leave here. Other thing is you look at yourself, look at your dreams, detoxify your life. Write that down. See, I think that most people never achieve their true goals in life because they're surrounded with too many toxic, negative, energy-draining people. You've got to look at the people in your life and ask yourself the question, what is this relationship doing to me? How is it impacting my life? Am I a better person? Sidney Poitier wrote a book called The Measure of a Man. And it's powerful, but I encourage you to get the tapes. I love his voice. And he said something in there. He said, when you go for a walk with someone, something happens unconsciously. It's not spoken. Either you adjust to their pace or they adjust to your pace. Whose pace have you adjusted to? My daughter, Ona Brown, who's a speaker and coach, she says, call forth your team, but make sure these are people that you can learn from. I never forget, I'm on a special board with a Bishop T.D. Jakes, and we went into a board meeting. He looked at everybody before opening the meeting. He said, as soon as I know as much as you do, you're fired. And with that, the meeting is now open. Everybody continued to learn on that boy. Trust me, that a friend of mine, he said, if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group. So as you look at yourself and look into the future, call forth your team. George Fraser says your network determines your net worth. Who do you allow to be in your ear? What kind of relationships are you developing? Are they an asset to you or they are a liability? Do they elevate your spirits or do they tear you down? We get two types of people, nourishing people and toxic people. Nourishing people, they bring the best out of you. They encourage you. They inspire you. They hold you accountable. Toxic people, they are critical people, always telling you what you can't do. They're always measuring your possibilities based upon their failures. My mother said, never let anybody tell you what you can't do, son, especially if they haven't done it. They don't know what's possible for you. So as you begin to look at yourself, begin to identify the relationships that you communicate with most and say, hey, is this relationship helpful to me? And then think about some people that you need to bring into your life that you can learn from, that you can grow from. I joined the National Speakers Association when I decided that I wanted to speak. I wanted to be around the people that were doing what I wanted to do. I'll never forget when I saw Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. He said, you have something special. You have greatness within you, and you can do more than you can ever begin to imagine. And here I am. And the audience said, oh my goodness. I'd read The Power of Positive Thinking 17 times. My hero. And I saw him backstage and I said, Dr. Peale, hi, my name is Les Brown. I've listened to your tapes and I've read your books. They gave them to us in special education, sir. And one day I would love to be on stage with you. And he looked at me and said, it's possible, young man. It's possible. But this man, when he spoke, he gave me goose pimples. Deep baritone voice, spoke from his diaphragm. You have something special. You have greatness within you. He override the inner conversations in my mind. I'll never forget a gentleman, what a brilliant man, a Harvard graduate, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He said, if you can determine what a man shall think, you never have to concern yourself with what he will do. If you can make a man feel inferior, you never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you can make a man feel justly an outcast, never have to order him to go to the back door. He'll go without being told. And if there's no door, his very nature will demand one. See, we live in a world where we're told more about our limitations rather than our potential. How many have ever been told that you couldn't do something? MIT did a study that if I say to you, you can't do that 16 people have to come along and say, you can do that, you can do that, you can do that, to neutralize that. And the 17th statement that you hear, you can do it, will be the one that will finally stick. So you have to watch who's speaking into you. You've got to begin to monitor your mind. And you've got to begin to literally be proactive in programming yourself to success. Be ye not conformed to this world. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. You've got to take responsibility to make that happen. And as you begin to do that, you'll begin to see some incredible changes in your life. I understand now when Earl Nightingale said, all of us are self-made, but only the successful will admit it. As you begin to look at your dreams and look at your goals, make know you're a vitamin. See, most people stop short of their dreams and park and get off the highway of life because of the rejections of life. You will always be rejected. It's no big deal. Jack Canfield said rejection is a myth. Get excited about the no. Why? Because every time someone says no, that brings you another step to a yes. You're getting closer. Trust me, you will win if you don't quit. You will win if you don't quit. Even a broke clock is right twice a day. The other thing is, as you look at yourself and look at your goals and look at your dreams, assess yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you bring to the table? When I looked at becoming a motivational speaker, I looked at all the speakers and I noticed that they were pretty much scripted. So I said, what is it that can make me stand out? I don't have any college education. I don't have any credentials. I never worked for a major corporation. What is it I can do to offset my weaknesses? Mr. Washington, Mr. Brown, yes, sir. What do you want to do with your life? I want to become successful. Good. He said, you must be willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. That's why you said you have something special. See, very few people go to seminars and workshops. They'll go to a concert, but showing up to get something that can expand their minds and help them to begin to see their lives differently, to give them a larger vision of themselves, they'll be too busy. Or they say, well, how much does it cost? Well, information costs, but it pays for itself. It's possible you can live your dream. It's necessary that you have the mindset that I'm going to do this. But you've got to take ownership. You've got to decide, hey, I'm going to do this. You've got to take responsibility for your life. George Bernard Shaw said the people that make it in this life, they look around for the circumstances that they want, and if they can't find them, they they create them. You've got to decide, it's me. You've got to say, and say this with conviction, I expect to win.